So if you'd like to close your eyes, I'm going to read our prayer for tonight. This one is taken from The Artist's Way, and I like to come back to it every now and again. Dear God, we are gathered together in your name, that we may be of greater service to you and to our fellows. We offer ourselves to you as instruments. We open ourselves to your creativity in our lives. We surrender to you our old ideas. We welcome your new, more expansive ideas. We trust that you will lead us. We ask you to unfold our lives according to your plan, not our low self-worth. Help us to believe that it is not too late and that we are not too small or too flawed to be healed by you and through each other and made whole. Help us to love one another, to nurture each other's unfolding, to encourage each other's growth and understand each other's fears. Help us to know that we are not alone, that we are loved and lovable. And just rest a moment with your eyes closed, just really feeling how beautiful that is, a sense of connection, of oneness between us. And when we've not got our awareness or consciousness on bodies or form, we close our eyes and we rest in the love of our hearts. We can realize that in spirit we are one. We're not separate. We're not alone. Just feel your breathing, make your chest rise and fall. Feel yourself very present, very welcome. And then just gently open your eyes. So you will know that I've returned to one of our most important themes about letting go. It's funny, I was just saying to Tessa, who arrived early about this, that we do need to go back again and again, don't we, to what we think, well, we've been there, we've done that. But if we only ever had to do everything once, in about 2 months, we'd done everything and we'd all be enlightened, wouldn't we? But the thing is, we have to return because each time we go into an important theme of our spiritual evolution, we just get perhaps a little bit more. And then we keep adding to our understanding, to the depth of our awareness. And in fact, we're learning how to let what we learn in our heads as factual, we're learning to let it drop down deep inside of us. So it becomes the truth that we live from rather than just stuff that we've learned. And, again, I was just saying to Tessa, if we only had to learn things once, think of something like don't judge, really fundamental teaching. Don't judge other people, don't judge yourself, don't judge life. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if I or somebody else just had to say that and you thought, yeah, that's really good. Okay, I won't judge anymore. It'd be amazing if it was that simple, but it isn't, is it? We have to learn, what does that really mean? How on earth can I do it? Why would I do it? What's the benefit of doing it? What happens if other people haven't done it? The whole subject is vast, isn't it? So we're returning to letting go. And I think tonight I want to particularly look at letting go of things that we carry from our past. And in fact, really, most of the problem with things we need to let go of are things from our past. There are our stories, our grievances, our regrets, our jealousies, our pains, our wounding is mostly to do with our past. And so there's a whole big area there. And the other area that I think is really important with letting go is learning to let go of wanting things to be a certain way. This really dominates most people's lives. Day in, day out, we have a picture of how life should be, how we should be, how where we live should be, how the world should be, how our children should be, our families. Do you all recognize this one? We've got pictures. This is how it should be. And of course, it isn't. And it's a source of eternal suffering, to use the word from Buddhism, that things will not be how we think they should be. They have their own life. And whatever's going on in this moment now is a sum of everything that's happened in the past. And it's evolved into this moment now. And we can't control things. We can't fix anything. We can't make anything be as we want it to be. And even if for a moment, I'm sure you've experienced this, for a moment, things are as you want them to be. It's all perfect. But that doesn't last more than about 3 minutes, because it just undoes itself again. It's like, what's that lovely expression? It's like trying to herd cats. Have you heard that one? Isn't that lovely? If you've ever tried to herd cats, they are completely impossible. Just run them all over the place everywhere, do whatever they want to do. And life is like that. It has its own life. And when we try to, if we say, I want it to be like this, and this should be like that, and it's important that these things are this way, and my children are this way, and my parents are this way, and life is like this, and my home has got to be like this, it's absolutely distressing, is it not? Because it won't do that. It won't do that. So letting go in this context is being able to say, can I step back from wanting things to be a certain way? In Buddhism, there's a saying that I've probably said to you, and you probably know, that all suffering comes from wanting things to be different. And you can almost feel the child stamping their feet, can't you? I want it like this. I want it like that. Or we particularly don't want it like that. And we can end up with the whole of our lives being about trying to avoid what we don't want and get what we do want. And that is an absolute recipe for suffering, isn't it? Because it's so clear that you will always get loads of things that you don't want, and you will almost never get all the things that you do want. So just logically, we have to learn to really let go in that area. Let go of wanting things to be a certain way. Let go of wanting things to be different. And the journey is, as I've often talked about, is to become the observer, to move into a place, like step back from being in the center of everything, step back to observing. And instead of saying, I want life or this person or whatever it is to be a certain way or not to be a certain way, to actually say, well, how is it? How is it right now? Can I just describe how it is from a neutral place, not with judgment or grievance or complaint? Just how is it? And to be able to move to that wise, sagacious place where we simply say, oh, yes, that's how it is. Eckhart Tolle talks about the isness of a situation. Isn't that a lovely word? So don't fight the isness of things. Learn to step back and just see how it is, and to bring a more of a peaceful letting go. I think that letting go is probably the most important mindset for living a happy life. The more you cling on to things, want things, demand things to be anything, the more unhappiness you're going to create for yourself. So I think it's can we learn to live in this place inside of ourselves, which is almost outside of our lives in a way, just neutrally observing. How is it? Let it be. Let it be as it is. And then, as with giving up judging things, then we can say, is there anything for me to do in this situation? Not rushing to fix it or change it. Just asking, is there anything here? How can I approach this from an attitude of service? Would it be helpful if I said something, did something, took action, or should I just be peaceful here? And bringing a peaceful self to things is a great gift, isn't it? The other thing I just want to talk about to do with this before I write some things I'd like you to contemplate. And there's a quote I wanted to give to you. I think I've come across this, said it to you before, and I don't know who said it, somebody might. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. That's not an amazing thought? Yeah. Actually, meantime, I do think that's a really huge thing to aim for. But what if we simply looked at the things that we love and hate, the things that we want and we don't want, the things that we should and shouldn't do and must and mustn't do? If we looked at all our strictures around the way things are and we loosened our hold on them, we let go. So perhaps, actually, I think that might be a good thing just to have a look at right now. Has everybody got pen and paper? Because it could be quite helpful to write those down. Have a quick look at, contemplate. What do you love or hate? What do you um, want and not want? What do you what do you feel you should and shouldn't, or life should and shouldn't be like? You might not be able to do it in depth all of this, but just beginning to think about it is really, really helpful. And probably once you get going, you'll probably find there's an awful lot of things. What do you hate? What do you love? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want? What do you specifically not want? And it's probably a list that you might want to continue afterwards, because we could probably, for these kinds of things, we could spend a long time on them, because most people's lists ultimately, when we really go into it, most people's lists are quite long. Then you've got on the lists, what should life be like? What should people do? What shouldn't life be like? What shouldn't people do? Just try a couple of things that are representative of your attitude. What should people do? What shouldn't they do? What should life be like? What shouldn't it be like? I think this is just a little entry, a little way into the kind of things that for most people dominate their lives. And this letting go work is so much related to softening in our demands, gradually stepping back, gradually being much softer and being able to say, this is how it is. And being willing, I'm just inviting you all to think about being willing to not want things to be a certain way or people to be a certain way, to not demand of the world and others, not demand and want of yourself. That perhaps all of these ideas are your own inventions. Perhaps it's not really a very helpful approach for us to have any demands at all about how life should be. And I know this is quite hard, but I promise you, many of you already thought of this, I promise you that is the way to being much more peaceful in our lives, to being happy, because there's no happiness in being driven by how things should be, or trying to get what you want, or trying to avoid what you don't want. Does everybody kind of resonate with that? Is that making sense for everyone? Or anybody not for anybody's not making sense, you can say, you want me to say anything more about it. So because this is only an hour, our little sessions, I'm only introducing it. We're not doing the whole depth of it, but just beginning to open up things that we really, really need to look at. And I think I'm going to do a part 2 of this. Next week is childhood trauma work. And the following week, I'm going to do a part 2 and look at another aspect of letting go. So, does anybody want to share anything they've come across? Just a quick share, anything? Yeah, Sarah? Sarah? Yeah.
On Friday, I watched a film about the story of Brian Banks, who was as a 16-year-old budding American football player with a scholarship waiting. He was wrongly accused of a crime and imprisoned. And his first period in prison, he was just so bitter and eaten up. And he had there was a spiritual mentor there whose message to him was that at some point you have to let it all go. And that was his greatest lesson in prison, and it actually got him through it.
Wow.
Well, and he also, when he came out, was determined to clear his name without the bitterness. And when he won his case at the end, the press said, "Are you going to sue the state now for wrongful imprisonment?" He just said, "No, it's time to let it all go."
Brilliant.
I thought it
Yeah.
illustrated your message very well.
Yes, it's great. Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thank you. And I think that's probably a very illustrative story for everybody. You know, if we don't let go, the older we get, the more baggage we've got. You know, and if you visualize all the things you haven't let go of as being stuffed in a rucksack or a bag or that you're carrying with you, yeah, you don't want it all, do you? You don't need the past. So it's those two areas today, the past and the wanting and not wanting that we're really looking at. Yeah. So a little bit more work for you then. So let's have a look. You have a look at what have you got that you're carrying around with you from the past that's either a grievance or a resentment or a complaint or something you're just not happy with that you've got going on in your mind from the past. Try and think of something like that. Because that's part of the baggage. And for most people, there's a lot of things, and it takes time to work through them. As this story that Sarah's just said, you let them go and you're liberated. So what have you got? Perhaps think of one thing from the past that your mind returns to. You keep complaining about, you're not happy about. It shouldn't have happened. And often it's about unfairness. This is a really common one that we have. And in the Course in Miracles, there's a teaching, to warn us not to perceive ourselves as unfairly treated. So when you're ready, does anybody like to share something they've come across? Because it will be, I'm sure it will be helpful and probably representative of the kind of things that we all can carry around with ourselves until we realize not to. Anybody like to share something that they thought about that they're carrying around from the past? Come on, one of you share. It'll be great. It'll be helpful. Be brave. No one? No? Okay. You probably feel a bit shy, so I do understand that. Yeah, I'm going to be very brave. I'm just going to ask somebody if they're willing to share what they've remembered. And you can say no, okay? So I'm going to ask Nikki, are you willing to share what you've remembered?
Um, yeah, I need to let go of the feeling that my dad was blocking me. Like, it's only a small incident really, but it's a kind of pattern, like, pocket money not giving it me.
Mm.
And I made a bank for our family, and he wasn't putting the money in. He just spoiled the whole thing really. It was kind of a nice thing for a kid to do really. And yeah, I felt blocking. So yeah.
Yes. And isn't that an interesting example? Because it was a long time since you were a child. And it just illustrates how we can carry things around with us, not just Unity, everybody, for years and years and years. And every now and again we revisit them. And then we get to be unhappy about it. And we feel bad about it. So there's a really wonderful reason to let it go, isn't there? And I think the reason we don't let go is we feel justified, we feel right. But again, the teaching of the cause, teaching here is very important. Do you want to be right or happy? And if you approach things that you're carrying with the point of view, I'm right about this, it shouldn't have been like that. And of course it shouldn't. But if you stick with it, then you continue activating your own unhappiness. So there's a really wonderful case here for saying, I'm ready to let go of all that. I'm ready to forgive it and let it go. And the reason you do it is for your own benefit. It's nothing to do with whoever did what it is you think they did. It's for you. So think of the grievances from the past being like a whole bag of stuff that you're carrying around, and it weighs you down, doesn't it? And it carries on making you miserable. So bringing that whole attitude into our lives of just letting, I think I'll let that go. That's my favorite phrase. When you see something, just say, go to the observer part of you, notice it. I think I'll let that go. I think it's not serving me. I think it belongs to my past. You see what I mean? If you're able to say that, just gently, not in a big way. No, I'm fighting this, I'm getting rid of it, just I think I'll let it go. It's not serving me. I'm clearing away all the clutter in my mind. I'm clearing away all the past. Does it all resonate with you as being a useful thing to do? It's like decluttering your home. Probably everybody knows people whose houses are completely full of clutter. I used to know people who had 3 floors and stairs between them, and every single stair had piles of paper on either side. So just a little space like this you could walk up. And the whole garage, if you went sideways, you could just about get through the garage. Well, that's what our heads get like, isn't it? We get full of all this stuff that we're carrying around in case we need it. Well, we don't. Let it go. Let it go. So maybe one more share. Can I ask somebody else? And you can say yes or no. I'm just looking straight at Sonal in the middle there. Sonal, would you be willing to share what you remember? Oh, just remember to take your mute off.
Yeah. It's not one particular thing, but there is this thing I'm not good enough at certain things. So I need to just let go of that. Like, I'm not good at that, so then I won't do it. So.
Yeah, that's really important. And I think that area we'll particularly focus on next time, because one of the things that most ruins our lives is our self-talk. And sometimes it's hard to see what we're saying to ourselves. But, if we're criticizing ourselves or judging ourselves, often it comes in sentences that we've had since we were 3 or something, and we don't notice that we're saying it anymore. Oh, there's no one coming back with the camera. Good. Yeah. So yes, we will go into that more depth next time and really sort of work with what kind of things we say to ourselves. But does everybody get it that all of the memories of the past, all the things we say about ourselves, all the things we say about how things should be and shouldn't be, they're a massive amount of clutter in our minds, and there's no peace then. There's no joy. There's no unconditional love because your head's too busy and it's going over things and regretting things and wishing for things and wishing things weren't such a way. You will all recognize that, how the head can get full of these things. And the shoulds and shouldn'ts, the musts and mustn'ts. There's a whole pile of things that limit our happiness. So I'm really encouraging us to just to think a little bit more deeply and be more and more willing, to let go of those. So I think with the incident that you've remembered, the thing that you're carrying, okay, just now, have a look at it and just say, how is it? Try and see how it really is. What, how is it in this present moment now? So, like the guy that Sarah was talking about, um, was anything happening in his life to do with that now? Or is it all belonging to the past? So, how is it now? Can you observe how that situation really is? Is it just a memory? Is it active in your life right now? Or is it just active because you keep going over it from the past? I think as you reflect on it, you'll see that the thing that you've remembered, that you're carrying from the past, it isn't doing anything now. It's what you think about it that's the problem. And I'd like you to ask yourself, is there anything here that I need to forgive? Is there anything here I need to forgive? And you can also ask yourself if even the memory that you have is correct. Because if anybody else who was in that incident you remember was to talk about it, they would probably have a completely different picture. But here, the important thing is there something to forgive? Am I holding a grievance here? Well, I should imagine for all of you, there is something to forgive. Does anybody think they haven't got anything to forgive? Everybody aware there's something to forgive here? Yeah? So just close your eyes a minute. And bring whatever it is to your mind. Just remember it a moment. Remember what people were involved. And just forgive. Be willing. If you can't completely forgive straight away, just say to yourself, I'm willing to forgive, or I'm working on it. Make movement for yourself. I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to let go. I'm willing to forgive, or I am forgiving. I'm forgiving myself. If I have judged anyone or criticized anyone or anything, I simply forgive. I let it go. And if you've judged yourself, especially that, let that go. I forgive myself and let it all go. And just see what need you have inside of you to continue with the forgiving. Sometimes we feel it's just gone. Other times we need to come back and forgive again, let go again. Don't carry it with you. Let it go. How could you say to yourself, I'm willing to let go of my past. I know that everything, all the gifts of my past are within me. Remembering the teaching, the past is over. All that's left is the blessing. And then spend a moment or two thinking about the blessings, all the blessings that you've gained. Sometimes it's hard to see, but stay with it. Everything in our lives has a gift within it. The more we can focus on what's the gift here, what's the blessing, what have I learned, how have I grown. You're letting go of what happened, but you're realizing the gift that was in it. Really feel that. That might just be emerging within you, the recognition. Did you learn to be stronger or wiser? Did you learn to be a kinder person? How did you learn to be more detached, more accepting? Did you find some more gentleness within you, perhaps? Did you find greater wisdom or courage? Maybe you grew in understanding. Maybe you found more compassion or kindness within you. Stay with that reflection. Really feel how you've grown. And not just perhaps from that one thing that I first asked you to remember, but in general, from the tough things. Remind yourself you don't need to remember the past. You want to live here in this present moment now, in love, in peace and joy. When we live in the past or spend too much time in the past, it takes us to regret and self-criticism and wishing things could have been different. When we live in the future, we live in fear. So we can never be sure things will be as we wish they would. Just feel that decision within yourself. I let go of the past. I'm willing to let go of the past. I'm willing to let go of the future. I'm willing to live here in this present moment now. So resting in this moment. Just keep your eyes closed. Be aware of where you're sitting, of your breath. Be present to this moment. And let your thoughts just drift by like clouds on a summer's day. Resting in this present moment where all is well. You might say to yourself, I'm here in this moment now, and all is well. Let's feel ourselves together, resting in this moment. Peace, love, and joy in our hearts. Stay there 2 or 3 minutes more in this meditation. Feeling your heart rest. While we're in meditation, I'd like to play you a beautiful song. Thank you, Sarah, for this. Simply called I Am at Peace. The words are, I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well. So you might need to open your eyes to check the volume, because I don't know what it's like at your end. Apart from that, just try and rest with your eyes closed and feel those repeated words echo in your being and bring you peace.
I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with what is. I am at peace with myself. I can release and know in this moment all is well.
So just gently open your eyes when you're ready. So before that meditation, well, it was part of it really, I asked you to think about the gifts of this, whatever it was that you remembered, whatever story from the past you were carrying around and that we're working on letting go. Does anybody want to share the gift that they gained? You know, I took you through things like gentleness or compassion or kindness or strength or whatever. But anybody who would like to share, what do they feel they gained from this maybe tough thing that they carried around? And perhaps thinking of you, Nikki, you know, what the whole of the experience, you know, with your father and the ongoing financial things. What gift was there in that for you? Could you see the gift?
Um, well, I saw when I was a teenager, I always had jobs, so always had enough money myself. Um,
Did you learn independence?
yeah. I just think though it's a very big subject, but not just that, but the other ones, like you said about hoarding and things. I kind of feel you've got to get to the bottom of it in order to let it go, not just let it go. Like if someone's it's not so easy for me because I can't see it. I can't really see what I'm supposed to do. But like the hoarding, for instance, obviously it's not just like let go of your stuff. There's a reason why you do hoarding, and that's why you need to understand what that is
Mhm.
and your
Yes.
fears or whatever they are. That there's lots of stuff. I think before you can let go, you can't just let go because it's not a good thing and you'll be freer of it. You will be, but I think you've got to understand what's going on and the roots of it in order to really be able to let go. I think when you totally understand it, you might not even want to keep it anymore, rather than a struggle to let it go. I think if you really truly understand the whole picture, and I don't understand the whole picture, so I can't really say it, but if I did, I think it wouldn't be a problem anymore. It would be just let go as a natural process.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. That's so right. And I'm aware that in the work I do with individuals, nearly everything is about what needs to be let go of and where did it come from, with understanding that, as you shine the light on the origins of what the problem is, so you're dealing with the causes rather than the symptoms. But I think in something like this, what I'm trying to give is an overview, so that we all realize more. What do we need to let go of? If we can't easily let go of it, some things you can just decide, because you somehow or another you've been arriving at that place for a long time. You can decide to let it go. But some things, when the cause is really strong and it's still strong within you, you do need some help to deal with it. But I think that the important thing here is the realization of what you're hanging on to. And then to think, if I'm hanging on to something and I can't easily let go of it, I need some help to do it. And I think that's what, therapy work is about, is to help us to let go of things that we see that need to go, but we can't do it by ourselves. And that's really helpful. Thank you. Anyone else, just quickly, any other gift that you got from the memory that you came up with? Anything that you gained? Dana?
Just very briefly, something that became obvious with my situation that we've just meditated on was I think I'm learning not to rely on my ego when making decisions, and to step back from the ego, look at the bigger picture, and then rely more on my heart, my higher self, or the Holy Spirit, whatever. And that way I think I can then better manage my emotions ultimately. That's what I've learned from it.
Yes, that's lovely. And I think all the things that we do, they all go together, all the things that we have, and they all support each other. So we gradually realize, together more and more things about our journey. But lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly summarize what I talked about, so that you can reflect more and see if there's anything more you need to do, because we can by ourselves look at the causes, can't we? So let's look at the things I'm really highlighting today. The underpinning thing is really to become the observer. Yeah? And I'm not saying, and it's very helpful what Nikki said, I'm not saying we can just do that overnight. These are areas that we look at that we think, well, I can see that, but I need to learn how to do it. So we gradually learn to step back from just being totally enmeshed in what we're doing and being and thinking. And we gradually step back. I know that's the egos. We step back into this observer place, which is the higher self. So that's the underpinning, really. And learning to let go of the past. And, you will have to think about, how do I let go of my past? And partly what we've done can be helpful, just to look at it, to forgive. The forgiveness is so powerful. Right? And sometimes you don't need to do more than remember it, feel it, and forgive all the component parts within it, and forgive yourself. That can often clear the whole thing out away for you. Other times you do need to go more deeply into the cause. The other thing I talked about was how important it is. It's just looking at attitudes and making little shifts, isn't it? Do you try to fix things in your life? Do you try to control things? Do you try to make them be a certain way? Can you begin to make steps to move back from that, to allow things to be more as they are? Yes. So beginning to sort of gentle and soften your attitude so you're not dominated by wanting things to be a certain way or wanting them to not be another way. And knowing that the motivation for that is that you will be happier. If you're not demanding that things should be a certain way, you will be happier, you'll be more at peace. And looking at all the things like loving and hating and liking and not liking, shoulds and shouldn'ts and so on, all those demands that we put, just begin to look more deeply at those. And can you begin to sort of soften there? Can you let go of a few things? Can you let more things be as they are? And all of that really is a lot to do with reaction. Yeah, I experience that reaction to things is the biggest cause of pain in our lives. So it's not just sort of a something that we get upset about this, we don't like that. It's actually destroying our peace to be in reaction instead of being able to say something that I always come back to is really begin to bring yes into your life. That feeling of yes, this is how it is. You know, if you bring in these little practices, these little awarenesses, gradually everything softens a bit in your life and you are able to let go more. So try to notice when you're resisting things. Yeah, so reaction is about resistance. What if it all just is? And you soften a bit, you step back, you say, yes, this is how it is. And that you wait until you're peaceful before you try to make a decision about anything. That's one of the hardest lessons, I think, is to try not to make decisions in the midst of deep emotion, because they won't be right. It won't be the right decision. To try to come to a place of peace first. Try to accept things as they are. And you can do all of these kinds of things without necessarily always having to go back to the cause. Sometimes you do, because what's got a grip on you is really strong, and you need to have a look at where it came from and try to unravel that more. But with forgiveness, an attitude of letting go, of stepping back into an observer place, saying yes to what is, all of that's loosening the hold that things have over us. Is that making sense for people overall? It's a little bit to work with. Just we've got a tiny bit of time left if anybody wants to comment or add anything to what we've done tonight. Any comments or thoughts quickly? Yeah, Puni.
I just thought it was very interesting when you said, is the memory correct? And I've been doing this in my own life where the ego pipes up, as you know how it does, and it has a grievance or it has a judgment. And I've been stepping back and saying, well, is your memory correct? Because if your thought is coming from the egoic perspective, very often it's not correct, is it? It's just not correct. You imagine your mind makes up this mental image of how you felt in that moment, which you cannot possibly know because it was so long ago. But the ego is very good at creating these mental images, and it's these mental images that can really sap our energy, and it's just not correct at all. And the ego, as we know, has a habit of speaking in absolutes. Oh, he never did this, and she never did that, and that's how it was. Well, it wasn't like that all the time if you really stepped back and thought about it. And your reaction wasn't like that all the time if you really stepped back and thought about it. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes, very helpful. The ego is completely selective because it's determined to be right. To tell you a very, very quick story, is years ago when I was living here the previous time, I took on a mediator role between two people who were in a huge argument about the borders of their land and the spring and things like that. There's all big water things here. And this one person had been bending my ear for a long, long time about how terrible the neighbor was. And I said, look, maybe I can help because you don't want to get stuck there. Let me go and talk to them. Well, when I got to talk to the neighbor, their story was how terrible she was. Yeah, exactly the same. That they were right. Both people thought they were completely right. That the other person was absolutely wrong, a truly terrible person, and mean and unkind and thoughtless and blah, blah, blah. It's incredible. Both people are determined they are absolutely right and the neighbor is absolutely wrong. Well, this can't be true, can it? They can't both be absolutely right and they can't both be absolutely wrong. So that taught me something really important. I gradually brought them together to listen to each other and to help them to sort of let go of their fixed positions. And very quickly they were able to find a middle path and find the middle ground and come to an agreement. But what an amazing thing. Totally diametrically opposed. One completely right, one completely wrong, and the other, equally true. Are you with me, aren't you? I'm sure. That's what happens. Yeah. And, in terms of the cause, it's all an illusion anyway. But it's certainly true that as time goes by, our memory becomes more selective. Yeah. And we tend to remember all the things that prove we're right. Yeah. And if there's an opposing thing, the other side is busy selecting all the things that prove they're right. So that's a hopeless way, isn't it? But thank you, Purni, for highlighting that. Anyway, thank you, everyone. So do reflect more on what letting go means to you. And we'll come back to this and look at, self things that we need to let go of in a couple of weeks' time. And next week is our Healing Childhood Trauma group. It's open to anybody who's done any kind of work on childhood trauma. And that's a little bit longer. It's an hour and a half, but it's also free of charge. So I look forward to seeing lots of you then. Thank you very much for coming. Take your mute off and then you can say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Leah.
Leah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Leah.
very much.
Bye, thank you.
Okay,
Bye,
thank you very much
everybody.
indeed.
Everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.